Hi, this is Scott Garibay, and today we're going to talk about Dungeons & Dragons 5th Edition, and we are specifically going to talk about saving throws stink. EXP to 3 just did a fantastic video on this, link to that video below, and his point was that saving throws really are just the worst, right? And what it is basically everything epic that happens in Dungeons & Dragons, just half of it has a saving throw attached. And then you roll this saving throw, which slows all the action down, and then this epic thing that's going to happen either with your spell or this epic horrible thing that's going to happen with this monster doesn't happen. Or it happens at half the horrific rate that it should have, right? And it sucks. Like, it's just like, it's a mechanic in the game it's padding, right? It's just bad. It's bad design. Totally agree. 100% agree with XP 3 that saving throws suck, right? So, what do we do about it? When we have a big load-bearing wall, and by the way, without a doubt, saving throws are a load-bearing wall. There's a crap ton of feats that are like, oh, you get advantage on saving throws. You can throw those out if saving throws go out the window. But this is where we're going, okay? Let's talk about taking saving throws out of Dungeons & Dragons. So how do you do it? All right. So first of all, you just embrace the Dungeon Master Guide. Right. The Dungeon Master Guide matters, and the Dungeon Master Guide says, yeah, you can totally yank saving throws out of the game. It's not a problem. Right. Here's how you do it. Right. So first of all, the Dungeon Master talks about this. It's on Rule 4. It's on page 4. And it says the rules are not in charge. You are in charge. Okay. Now we have to move forward carefully. Right. We can't just pull everything out of the game that we don't like, right? We have to be very, very careful. We have to give some thought to this, right? Now, actually, I don't think we need to give thought about taking saving throws out of the game. And the reason why is XP to 3 already thought about it a lot, right? And if you listen to his video, he goes in vast depth and says, hey, I'm a smart guy, and I listen to this other smart guy, and we both agree saving throws suck. And I listened to XP 3, and I totally agree with him. It sucks, right? It's just, he lays a rock-solid foundation that saving throws suck in the game. Right? So we don't have to just sit around and do nothing about it. We can fix it, right? So here's how we do it. So one, we make sure we're moving forward carefully. We are. XP3 is a smart guy. I think he's right, and you should do the same thing. Don't even think about doing this until you listen to XP3's foundation and say, yeah, I think that's right. Or if you think he's full of, BS, then you can say, no, I'm going to keep him in my game, right? But I think he's right. I think saving throws sucks. So now, let's move to the next question. If saving throws sucks, how do we take them out of the game, right? How do we do it in a way that matters, in a way that's good, in a way that's fair, right? Well, first of all, we check our permissioning. Are we permissioned by Dungeon Master Guide to do this? Yes, we are, right? And when we pull saving throws out of the game, are we running a homebrew? No, we are not. We are running a bog standard Dungeons & Dragons game using the bog standard DMG permissioning that is right there in the game. This is not a homebrew. When you change rules in your game, you're not playing a homebrew, right? Don't ever use that word with your game. Just say, I'm running Dungeons & Dragons. And they're like, well, wait, you got this part here that's changed, right? And you're like, yeah, I have the permission to do that from the bog standard Dungeon Master Guide that says on page 4, I have the right to do this, right? Now, the unspoken part is they have the right to go, you suck. And I ain't playing in this weirdo no saving throw game, right? And that's another thing that we should talk about, right? If you're going to do this, if you're going to take out a load-bearing wall and put up some other kind of structure, right? And we're putting up a different kind of structure, right? We have to be willing to let our games fold, right? And we have to understand if an entire tabletop an entire group of players walks away from our game, that's totally fair. They have every right to do that, right? So we have the right to take liberties with the game. It's permissioned. It's given to us in Dungeons & Dragons, right? We have to do it with forethought. We have to do it carefully. And I'm going to give you some other structures that need to be in place as well, right? So you're like, yeah, I'm taking, and you're not going to say it to your player. I'll tell you how you tell your players, right? But I'm warning you, right? Once you get on the other side of this and you've done everything I said, if your players walk away from the table, that's totally their right. And you took a risk, right? And it's good to take risks. Like you don't get anywhere if you don't take significant risks in your life. And this may fail. Be aware of that, right? So if you want to play your safe game, you want to make sure that your unicorn, players stay right where they are, then don't take a risk like this. But if you want to take the game to the next level, if you want to take your IRL risk taking to the next level, if you want to move forward, right, you got to make some moves, right? Like you got to, put some juice out, right? Like it's just the way it is, right? So how do we do this? How do we rip saving throws right out of the game, right? So the way you do this is you would say, whatever campaign you're in, you will have a hedge witch, right? They go into a small village and the hedge witch says, beware the coming blood moon. The convocation of the moon and the star will change all that came before, right? And your players go like, what you talking about, hedge witch? Right? And then a week later, the blood moon arrives, right? And you look up and you're like, the moon is blood red. And then there's a star that converges behind it, and there's another star that converges behind it, and then there's a bright spark and a boom, right? And you feel a shudder literally go through all your bones, right? And you're like, and that's it. Your players are like, what just happened? Right? You're like, that's what happened. And then the next time one of your players casts a spell that requires a saving throw, you say, you cast your spell and your target, they don't have a save. They take all the damage. And they're like, what? Why is that? And you're like, that's a great question. Why do you think that was? It's like the world changed. Right? Your players are going, wait, what? The blood moon got rid of all saving throws? And you're like, yeah, that's what happened. Right? And so they're like, ooh. So one, your players are going to realize right then, right, that like their spells, they don't have to deal with saving throws anymore. When they throw their fireball, ain't nobody going to take half damage. They're going to take full damage, right? And then they're going to get hit by their first monster, right? Like when they get hit by a cockatrice, and they're just petrified, and there's no saving throw, they're going to be like, oh, this is going in both directions. Holy crap, we're in a new world. This world is more dangerous. And I think if players are smart, they're like, this is more exciting, right? And it is. You're playing a new, better version of Dungeons & Dragons, right? Now, the one thing I want to make clear is, what if your players are like, this sucks, we want the saving throws back, right? They can do it, right? And you're like, well, you can say, if the blood moon convocation was reversed, then saving throws will return, right? And they're like, what? We got to reverse the blood moon convocation? How on earth will we do that? Well, that's a quest. Like, you're saying, well, there's a tome in this library over here that talks about reversing a blood moon, right? And then, and first of all, you ain't even going to write, any kind of quest material until they decide to go on it, right? But if they're like, we really want saving throws back, you got to give them a way to get it back, right? In game, they quest for it, right? And they reset the world back to the way they like it, right? But, and so that's fair, right? You're warning them ahead of time. You're making a world-shattering change, right? And then you're giving them a way to reverse it if they don't like it, right? That's fair to everybody. It's dramatic, it's compelling, and it's bog standard D&D. It's not some homebrew nonsense. Don't ever attach the words homebrew to your game, ever, right? You play Dungeons & Dragons, and your changes are part of standard Dungeons & Dragons because standard Dungeons & Dragons permissions a dungeon master to think carefully, make careful choices, and change the game. All that's my opinion. When are you going to put the Blood Moon Convocation in your game and rip out saving throws? I'm probably going to do it tomorrow. When are you going to do it? I'd love to hear your thoughts. Let me know in the comments below. Please consider liking and subscribing, and have a wonderful millennium.